Let's get into the meat of the compliance chapter. Let's look at financial institutions. When we look at financial institutions, one of the major regulations comes through the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, or the GLBA. It imposes both administrative as well as technical and physical safeguards to protect data. It was designed to accomplish three goals: to ensure security and confidentiality of consumer records and information, to protect against anticipated threats or hazards to security and the integrity of such records, and to protect against unauthorized access to or use of such records. And it only applies to non-public personal information. So if there's information that concerns you that's already out on the web or it's public information, that's not covered under GLBA. Personally identifiable financial information is provided by the consumer to a financial institution, such as your name and say your bank account when you're applying for a loan, or resulting from a transaction with or a service performed for a consumer, or otherwise obtained by the financial institution. There's more than one agency that regulates the financial industry. There's the Office of Comptroller of the Currency, the Federal Reserve Board, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, and the Office of Thrift Supervision. And they all manage and regulate different aspects of the financial industry. But they develop what's called interagency guidelines to implement a comprehensive written information security program that should involve the board of directors as well as the team writing the security program, and designed to assess the risk and manage and control the risks that you might identify. So let's look at it in a little bit more depth. Manage and control risk. Well, there's a number of elements that you'll recognize in here, particularly if you've designed any security programs. Have access controls, restrictions on the physical locations of stored customer data, encryption of information in transit and at rest, segregation of duties. Segregation of duties is very big and an important aspect of both security as well as compliant regulations. Background checks on employees, and that may vary depending on the type of industry you're in the financial industry. System monitoring, train employees on the information security program, maintain regular testing of controls and systems, properly dispose of customer information, provide adequate oversight of service providers' information security measures, and adjust information as new threats arise. And secondly, to establish and maintain an incident response program. You need to determine what incident response processes and procedures you have around sensitive data. Well, sensitive data in most cases is defined as first name or first initial and last name, plus social security number, driver's license number, account numbers, credit or debit card numbers, or personal identification numbers or passwords that permit access to customer accounts. Now, we saw this in Unit 2 when we looked at a lot of the privacy rules and security rules that states define around data breach laws. You want to train incident responders and test the processes multiple times during the year. And you can do that through tabletop exercises, or today you see a lot of security people using virtual environments that they can train incident responders. You want to establish and maintain an incident response program, and at a minimum it should include assess the nature and scope of an incident, identify and set up an identification of what customer information may have been accessed, take steps to contain and control the incident from any further access. And an element that is not in the text, but which I find very important to do if you have an incident, is contact your legal department, because they will want to know as soon as possible if something has happened, because there are, as we saw in Unit 2, a number of processes and procedures they may have to execute if there is an incident. notify the primary federal regulator, and notify appropriate law enforcement agencies. And keep the customers informed as soon as practicable. Notify the board and keep them informed of the state of security. Should do this at least annually, but I always did it quarterly to really keep them in the loop and allow them to provide oversight to what we were doing in security. Is this a broadly defined compliance obligation? Well, it's got a lot of specificity as to what you have to accomplish, but you have a bit of latitude on how you want to do that. The Security Exchange Commission sets the GBLA as requirement for brokers, dealers, investment companies, investment advisors registered with the SEC, but it's not as detailed as the interagency guidelines. They provide that you have to have a written information security program, but the procedures to ensure the administrative, technical, and physical obligations to the GLBA are there, but you have more latitude as to how you want to accomplish that. On the other hand, they're also very aggressive in enforcement of the provisions that they identify.